Hello. Hi, everybody. Welcome to The Rational Live. It's been a month since I've done a live show. 1 month, almost exactly a month. But I'm back now, so it's all good. So a lot to get to today before I preview today's show. Let me, of course, plug therationalnational.com/join. Everything is a smooth transition right now. Here we go. Patreon page. So that helps to support this show. You all know the YouTube spiel. I don't have to go through it again, but YouTube, suppressing media, blah, blah, blah. I mean, you see it in the numbers. Certain videos are able to hit, but they're usually clickbaity videos, and I prefer to do real news, and it's kind of hard to do that on here without proper support. So help support the show on Patreon or through Super Chats, or join on YouTube if that's easier for you. So whatever works for you, help support the show if you can. And yeah, that will help keep me going. Now, let's give a little preview, and of course, throughout the stream, I'll be taking super chats as well. But so today, Hillary Clinton's tweet. That's all I'll say because I'm going to get to it right now. So Hillary Clinton tweeted something bizarre, and I'll discuss that. Also, a flashback to what the media was saying about COVID-19 exactly 2 years ago, before the pandemic hit. I'll also get to that. Also, Nina Turner on CNN in a debate with a former Joe Manchin advisor, and fireworks in that video. So I'll share that as well. Also, Starbucks union credits one individual in particular, someone you know very well, as one of their big influences. So I'll get to that as well. Also, what else? God, there's a lot of... I think I have too many stories today. Also, COVID-19 wins a Supreme Court case. Yes, a virus won a case. I'll break that down and show you some reactions to that. And lastly, I'm not sure if I'm going to turn this into a story because I'm really just going to read an article about this. But a man claims that COVID shrunk his penis. So we will discuss that and if there is any validity to it. All right. Let me start with Hillary Clinton's tweet, which is indeed, as I said, bizarre. White moderate politician. Let me start that over again. It's been a long time since I did a live show. White moderate politician Hillary Clinton called out white moderates in a bizarre tweet. So this went up on Friday, today as of recording this, and it's really weird that she would quote MLK here, considering this is referring to people like her, obviously. So Hillary Clinton tweeting out, MLK Jr. said, quote, "I had hoped that the white moderate would understand that law and order exist for the purpose of establishing justice, and that when they fail in this purpose, they become the dangerously structured dams that block the flow of social progress." This is a subtweet. So clearly she's talking about Sinema here and Joe Manchin, who right now are blocking blocking filibuster reform that would allow the voting rights bills to pass. But it's like, what? Hillary Clinton is the white moderate that MLK was talking about. Now, it's possible here that she doesn't realize, maybe because this is a discussion more about voting rights, so she's not really thinking that she's a moderate in this situation. But I mean, if you're against voting rights, you're not moderate. You are far right wing, and that's what the GOP have become. That's what a lot of, honestly, the Democratic Party has become. But especially Manchin and Sinema in this regard. But just to show you, how Hillary Clinton is clearly in this camp of a white moderate, she just recently, this is a couple weeks ago, warns Democrats against far left turn before 2022 midterms. How further right could Biden possibly go? Like, what far left turn? Expanding Medicare? Canceling some student debt? Passing voting rights? Like, we're talking about the bare minimum here. And any move to the left should be welcomed and would help the Democratic Party. Again, Democrats win when voter turnout is high. Republicans win when turnout on the Democratic side is suppressed. The Democratic Party has to be able to get out typical non-voters out to vote for them. The way they do that is by doing something for the public that would then excite people out to vote. You don't do that by doing nothing. So Hillary Clinton, of course, the white moderate here, but let's go to a bunch of memes that popped up because of this. These are all hilarious and applicable. So here's Garfield. I wonder who that's for. Of course, the Spider-Man meme, the pointing one here. Guy pointing at himself in the mirror. You see a theme here. And then the hot dog meme. We're all trying to find the guy who did this. Hillary Clinton calling out the white moderate while not realizing that she herself is a white moderate. All right. Fun little quick story there. Next will be the flashing back to 2020. But I see a super chat. Donald James XX says, "Here's my monthly donation. Good to see you live." Well, thank you. Thank you, Donald. I appreciate it. All right, I'll be right back as I prep this next story. All right, I am back. It's a pretty quick break as there wasn't much prep to this story. I just want to give a little shout out here to Jermaine Mitchell, says first time on the live show. Thank you, Jermaine, for tuning in. All right, let me get to this story now. This is a fun one. So I came across this clip from the Recount Twitter account, which is a supercut of the media exactly 2 years ago this week, discussing the coronavirus for the first time. Check this out.
So they're calling this the coronavirus. Should we be concerned that it could spread to the U.S.?
Not a big concern at this point.
The coronavirus,
yes.
too. There's still that kind of unknown and
Now
fallout where
talking.
people are worried about it turning into something more than it will be.
Are hospital staff and other patients at risk of exposure?
Not for this particular case. Hospitals in the U.S. have gotten much, much better about being prepared for novel infections.
The fact is, it's not spreading in this country.
Well, no, I just gave you...
Right?
Well,
It's not. What are there, 5 cases in
well,
the
no,
United States?
but do you want it to not?
That's good advice, by the way, regardless.
Well,
Don't
yeah,
shake
well-
people's hands. Don't touch your face.
Well, I mean, but that's... I mean,
And they do not believe that there is an immediate risk to the broader American public. They don't make recommendations that people here wear face masks.
The risk for the general communities in the United States from this infection is very low.
Well, that's amazing. How naive we were. This reminds me a bit of the old clips of the media back in like the early 90s talking about the internet, the new fad, the World Wide Web. This is before we realized, of course, what the internet would become and it would take over our lives, much like this coronavirus. So it is just weird to go back and see the kind of reporting. Now, look, I don't think this is really, some people may take this as an indictment of the media. No one really knew at that point in early January that it would become, that COVID-19 would become what it is today. I mean, the worst you could say is maybe CNBC didn't want to, in particular CNBC, didn't want to, disrupt the market, so they downplayed the virus. But ultimately, mid-January, not many people really knew what was going to happen. I mean, I was thinking back to that time. I went to a Tim and Eric comedy show in February, in like mid-February, and that was a month after this. So even then, COVID-19 at that time was not really a thing that was taken seriously. It wasn't really until early March that I think it really hit for most people. And I mean, you can go back, watch my live show. There's a live show I have where it's me basically realizing, I think this is like early March, mid-March, me realizing that this is legit, that we are in a pandemic, this is serious, and we got to deal with this. So it's wild to see how naive we were at the time, but I don't know. I'm not sure if I'm not sure if there are any lessons here. I just found it amusing to watch that clip of how the media was reacting to this virus long before we realized that it would take over the entire world. All right. By the way, I'm sure there's a lot more like that. I mean, if you go back and watch, I'm sure if you go back and search COVID-19 or coronavirus in like early January, maybe even late December, you'll find some things, but man, it's so weird. It's just so, I'm laughing because to me, it's amusing how naive we were. We had no idea what was going to happen. All right. Let me prep this next story. This next one, bit of a big one, because I got 2 clips. This is Nina on CNN, and then I got a bunch of commentary in the middle as well. So let me prep this. I'll be right back. All right. First, thank you, Fanders, for your donation. You are a loyal supporter. Thank you so much. All right, let's get to this story. The incredible Nina Turner was on CNN for a lively debate on what Biden should do to get Manchin and Sinema on board with voting rights. So, of course, Sinema and Manchin right now are against filibuster reform, meaning you need 60 votes to pass voting rights, which is impossible right now with the way the Senate is split. But Nina was on CNN with Jonathan Cott debating him, who is a former Manchin advisor. So you can kind of imagine how this went. And it is incredible. Nina Turner here I have two clips. She is fantastic. So here is the first one.
Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema's positions on the filibuster hasn't changed. They don't think it's good for the Senate and the country overall. And they're worried about what might happen when Republicans take back control of the Senate, which, by the way, isn't that far off. It was only 2 years ago they had complete control. So they are looking to preserve how the Senate works and force them to work in a bipartisan way. But Senator Manchin completely agrees that we need to reform our voting rights in this country, and he's working on it, and he's working on a bill, and he's hoping that he can get 9 more Republicans. But these things aren't easy, and they take time.
Nina, what do you make of that sort of preservation? Yes.
Preservation, my behind, Brianna. Look, we need to preserve democracy now, so I got to disagree with my colleague here. They better not utter not one quote from the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., not one, or any of his colleagues and contemporaries as we come up on his birthday on Saturday and the national celebration on Monday. These people are cowards. They are soulless cowards to hold up a daggone rule. Filibuster is a rule. It's not written in the Constitution. It's not a right. It is a rule, and they're standing in the way of it. So this is nonsense. They worried about what the Republicans going to do. Let's take care of 2022. Let's do what Democrats can do right now. They have the power. And my message to President Biden, now he done wasted a whole bunch of time with these folks, being diplomatic, inviting them out to the White House and to time out for it. He needs to hold a press conference, let them know. Either you're going to be by my side saying you're going to be with me and getting rid of the filibuster, or I'm gassing up the jet on your behind, and I will be in Arizona and West Virginia directly and let the American people know who's standing in the way of my entire agenda, not just voting rights. So President Biden, gas up the jet and cancel student debt.
All right. A reminder, I got a second clip coming up. I love this passion from Nina Turner. It is rare, honestly, really rare to find this kind of energy. First of all, it's rare to find any sort of left-leaning perspective on CNN or MSNBC, but to find that and somebody who's incredibly passionate and is able to deliver her points so well, Nina Turner is a rarity in the mainstream press. So it's great to see her here. Now, on just a couple of her points here. So executive orders, absolutely. I mean, this is one thing Biden could do in lieu of being able to get Manchin and Sinema on board, which honestly, I don't know if there's anything that he could do to really get them on board. I mean, he could try and do what Nina said, but at the end of the day, really anything I think short of threatening a DOJ investigation in the case of Manchin and his daughter and the EpiPen scandal and that whole thing, maybe you can get Manchin on board if you threaten him properly. Sinema, I really have no idea what you could do with her. But, in lieu of that, executive orders. When it comes to student debt, when it comes to cannabis, there are a number of things that Joe Biden could be doing to actually deliver something for people in the meantime, but he's not doing any of that. Now, on Cott's points, before I get to the second clip, so he says here, Manchin and Sinema's position on the filibuster hasn't changed. Well, that's not true. Sinema's position actually has changed. I covered this recently in a video. Kyrsten Sinema advocating for the use of reconciliation in the Senate before she was a senator in 2010. So if you watch this video, I'll link to my article or my video on this above on YouTube when I cut this out. But it's clear that she is, everything about Sinema has changed. Sinema used to be a Green Party person. She was in the Green Party, and now she is essentially a Republican. So to claim that Sinema hasn't changed is just wrong. The other point Cott made here, Manchin is hoping that he can get 9 more Republicans to support voting rights. Are you crazy? How would he be able to get 9 Republicans on board with voting rights when they are the ones that are leading the charge, making it harder to vote? This is the only way they're able to solidify their victories, is by ensuring less people vote. So by restricting voting rights to voters of color and to young people, which is what Republicans are doing right now, various states, there's 43 bills there's 43 states that have bills. 19 have passed these restrictions. So how possibly would Democrats be able to get Republicans on board? If they can get them on board, they would be on board right now, and they're not, because they don't care about voting rights. All they care about is winning, solidifying a majority. Now, so this Manchin advisor or former advisor is completely full of shit. Now let's get to one last point here. Just, you are essentially handing Republicans the Senate by not doing anything. I mean, that's the other piece of this that I think Nina also touches on here as well, is you can't, Democrats not only need voting rights because it's the right thing to do, they need voting rights to be able to win. That's it. If they don't have the ability for people that want to vote for them are able to vote, if those people can't actually vote, then Democrats definitely are going to lose. I mean, they're going to lose anyways in the midterms if they can't deliver anything. But on top of that, if you have restrictions in place where people that even want to vote for Democrats can't, then they're definitely going to lose. So the idea that you're going to wait even longer for this is absurd, and or the idea that you're going to get any members of the GOP on board is also crazy. But let's get to this second clip now.
Gassing up the jet and heading to West Virginia and Arizona is not actually going to get it done. There are ways that people can get things done in D.C. Senator Manchin and Senator Sinema proved that with a historic infrastructure bill that they just passed. That's how you get things done. Slogans and, just yelling isn't the way it works. So if you want to actually get something done, sit down with them and keep talking. And that's what Senator Manchin's going to keep doing.
Give me a break. They've been sitting down and talking, Brianna, and that infrastructure bill, while we do need to repair infrastructure in the United States of America, that is not giving people something they can feel. People can't afford, the poor people are suffering in this country, and you got senators who are set for the rest of their natural lives playing games. The president has already sat down with them, Brianna. That tactic, that strategy is not working. And the rest of the senators on the Democratic side need to hold their colleagues accountable, because allegedly Sinema and Manchin are the only two holding out, which we know that's not true. If in fact it is true, though, let me lay that out there. If in fact it is true, then they need to hold their colleagues accountable. This passion, you know what, Brianna, there is a woman in Chicago. Her name is Martise Chisholm. She sent me a text last night saying how sad she is. You know why? Because she is of that child generation that grew up and watched her foreparents. Her great grandmother was murdered. You hear me? Murdered on January 11th, 1966. And you know why she was murdered? Because she was standing up for voting rights, ran off the road by white supremacists and decapitated. So there are people who are still alive today who were either children during that time or elders during that time, fighting like hell in heaven to get voting rights. And here we are in 2022 kissing the behinds of two senators who could care less about the people in this country. So Jonathan, spare me. That's not how you're going to get things done. Yeah, I am outraged with a whole bunch of other folks who need to be outraged about what those two and others who are hiding behind them are doing. So President Biden, gas up the jet on these people.
Absolutely amazing. There is no one like Nina Turner. Again, no one like her on cable news. I would love to see just the reaction from people, from the everyday CNN watcher viewer, what they think. I want to see their reaction watching this kind of thing, because they're not used to seeing this kind of passion displayed for something like voting rights or for really anything. So it's good to see they're actually fighting for the working class, fighting for people, and fighting for ultimately what is the right thing to do. Now, you can tell whose strategy here is right and wrong just based on what's gone on. I mean, Jonathan Cott here, his strategy is, Biden just got to sit down with Manchin and Sinema, have a coffee, have a beer, just hash it out, and they're going to get it done. Like, are you stupid? He knows he's full of shit. He has to, because he's in the business. He knows this is completely crap. But clearly that's what Biden has been doing so far. He's been very kind to them. Hasn't worked. It's not going to work. Nina's strategy, on the other hand, has not been attempted. So even if it doesn't work, at the very least, try it. Try something. Stop being all kind to Manchin and Sinema. Actually try to force their hand by doing something. But Biden hasn't. So, and on just a couple points here about the infrastructure bill, because that was brought up, man, this is really, if there's been any failing in terms of messaging by the Democratic Party and in particular progressives in Congress, it's on this infrastructure bill, because they have sold it, even the ones that voted against it, it's been sold as this this thing that is going to, you know, help the average person and really benefit society. And in some ways, I'm sure it will. I mean, bridges, roads need to be rebuilt, need to be fixed. But when it comes to who actually benefits in the infrastructure package, it's, of course, massive corporations, including fossil fuel companies. So this is from the Center for International Environmental Law. Their piece here, infrastructure bill wastes billions in giveaways to oil and gas industry. So there's a lot of reporting on this. Also, the American Prospect, a great outlet, by the way. You should bookmark them and see what they're putting out on a regular basis. But their piece here, infrastructure summer bipartisan bill boosts corporate giants. So their piece here is on broadband and how it benefits corporations. Initially, the broadband plan in the infrastructure package was going to be public. It was going to benefit, you know, everyone. And then ultimately, of course, it was whittled down to just benefiting massive corporations, as it always is, which is why you had 19 Republicans on board with this infrastructure package. Why else would they sign off on a Biden bill? Because it's going to help their donors. That's the only reason they would ever do that. So why this hasn't been, you know, explored more or discussed at length more often by progressives in the mainstream press, I don't know, but it's worth pointing out here. So, I mean, ultimately, it's clear Biden has to do a lot more, and even if he does everything, it's not clear that he would be able to move Manchin and Sinema, which is why, at the very least, he should be doing a lot more through the power that he does have through executive orders. All right. That was the longest story today. Coming up, Starbucks and who they credit, the one person they credit for doing what they're doing. Sorry, Starbucks union organizers. And COVID-19 wins Supreme Court case, and man claims COVID shrunk his penis. So those three stories coming up. Got to prep this next one, so I will be right back. All right. I got a couple of chats. Let me check those before I get to this next story. Foley Insider says there is no such thing as left media on television, never has and never will be, which is true in terms of who runs the media, simply because media is corporations. You're not going to have you're not really gonna, at least in the current climate, the way media operates, you're not really going to have a television network that is, you know, socialist. But excluding Candace Owens, who do you rate the biggest clown on the right? Probably Steven Crowder. Yeah, I'd say Steven Crowder. Hallis says, you think that the right have any redeemable individuals? It seems we are caught between extremes on both sides. When will we see middle ground? We're not caught between two extremes. We're not. There is one extreme and then there is rationality. Now, I guess there's a left extreme maybe on Twitter somewhere, like in small groups. But in terms of what we are seeing every day, the media we're consuming, it's far right. I mean, corporate media is already on the right because it's capitalist, it's corporations. So there is no real left media in terms of mass media. I would call, the Young Turks maybe in the middle in a perfect world, but they're clearly in terms of the way the media is right now, they're clearly on the left compared to, we're CNN or MSNBC or of course Fox News. So, in terms of extremes, there's one extreme. And then there is, people that care about human rights, care about voting rights, care about healthcare for all, care about humanity, care about society, care about science, care about the climate crisis, care about, what is actually impacting the vast majority of people, being the poor, the middle class. So there really is just, rational individuals and then people on the right that are completely out of their minds. And in most cases, just looking out for themselves. I mean, people like Crowder, like Candace Owens, who was mentioned earlier, they're funded by billionaires. That's why they distract with cultural issues. That's why they do the vaccine stuff. It's all a distraction from what is really going on, from what is really impacting people. Of course, they don't talk about why taxes are so low for massive corporations and the wealthy. They don't talk about why wages are so low. They don't talk about the lack of access to healthcare that Americans have. I mean, go down all those issues. They ignore those issues because their whole reason for existing is to distract you from actual issues impacting your life and distract you with, whatever cultural bullshit they come up with. Septic sends a super chat as well, a little fun hippo in a chair going in a circle. Thank you so much for your super chat as well. All right, let me get to this next story. This is a fun little pick me up. Here is something that executives at Starbucks will hate. A Starbucks union organizer, has credited Bernie Sanders as her main influence. So this is in the wake of this recent news that a second union in the Buffalo area has now won their vote to unionize. So we are now seeing the dominoes begin to fall. And this organizer is from Tennessee, so she's in Knoxville, Tennessee, Maggie Carter. So taking on Starbucks, inspired by Bernie Sanders, the liberal workers the company has long attracted are expanding a union campaign to other cities after a landmark victory in Buffalo. And this is Maggie Carter. So this is why Starbucks is incredibly ripe for this kind of labor action. It's because they've already cultivated the kind of worker that would be for organizing. So they have tried to attract these more progressive-minded individuals. Well, when you do that, you also are setting yourself up to face these sorts of actions, which, Starbucks should be welcome to. If they present themselves as being progressive, forward-thinking, then they should have no problem with the workers organizing. But clearly, they have been met with resistance. So more here from Ms. Carter. So Ms. Carter, who began circulating union cards at her store not long after the results of the Buffalo elections were announced last month, studies broadcast journalism at the University of Tennessee. She is passionate about climate change, fighting racism, and labor rights. And her political hero is Senator Bernie Sanders, the Vermont independent. Bernie Sanders is my everything, Ms. Carter said. I love him more than anything. So this, of course, is not really surprising. I mean, I love Bernie Sanders. For me, he is sort of a lawmaker that transcends, the Washington bubble, where he is. there are, of course, there's criticisms of everybody. Of course, Bernie, there are criticisms of him as well as a lawmaker. But in terms of his actual impact on society, especially over the last several years when he became more of a household name, I mean, it's undeniable the kind of impact that he's had, be it on movements like this, be it on myself. I mean, the reason this channel exists is in large part because of Bernie Sanders. I was largely inspired by him. That's why I ran for office. That's why I then decided to start this channel. So he's had a massive impact on my life, clearly has had a massive impact on others. And it's because you have this person who has been fighting for the same thing, for human rights, for individuals, for the working class, his entire career, despite most of the media, most of everybody ignoring him for most of his career, really until he ran for president. So, you know, it is such a rarity to see a lawmaker like this for 40 years fighting for the same thing, despite every loss, every, the entire system working against him, his entire life. Yet still, he has managed to maintain this passion, this fight, and it's incredible. And it's no wonder he's inspiring people. But a little more here. So, quote, "If you think about the kinds of employees they have, the stereotype of people that work there seems to be true. A lot of young people, Bernie supporters, DSA types," said John Logan, a labor studies professor at San Francisco State University, referring to the Democratic Socialists of America. Quote, "These are the kinds of people who can take this and run with it. It could be in Knoxville and Arizona just as easily as in San Francisco and Manhattan." So this is going to what I was saying before, where regardless of where these Starbucks are, be it Arizona, be it Tennessee, be it, of course, New York, California, you're still attracting a similar type of employee, a more progressive-minded employee, somebody who is more in tune with the likes of someone like Bernie Sanders and the working class and that struggle, that fight. So this is why I think Starbucks is clearly the epicenter right now in terms of massive corporations unionizing or their workers unionizing. One of the main drivers right now in the labor movement. So I just find it funny. They also go on, Starbucks goes on to say they're not anti-union, but they're pro-partner. Like, it's all, they have to be able to remessage this and make themselves look good when there's no way around this. You are anti-union, you are fighting these organizers, you don't want them to have their own voice. That's obvious, while at the same time you're trying to maintain this progressive image. So I covered the initial effort to unionize Starbucks. Some may think, isn't Starbucks, don't they have a great workplace? Don't they offer all these benefits? Well, the reality is when you talk to the actual workers, a lot of that has been cut down over the past several years, and including their pay. So if you've worked there for a while, your pay is not much different than someone who was just hired. So there has been a clear cut to how these workers have been treated over the past several years. But even in that, regardless of that, workers want to have their own voice. So in a massive corporation, especially like Starbucks, like an Amazon, like Walmart, these are the places where workers should be able to have their own voice. But I just want to reference this thing just to end on this. As I covered this recently, because this is the other side of it. You have massive corporations like Starbucks, like Amazon, trying to fight these union efforts. But then you have a small company like Vodeo Games. This is the first unionized video game developer in North America that was able to unionize, and the management voluntarily recognized the union. And this is a company that already had 4-day work weeks. They already had all these fantastic benefits, and management was like, fine, that's okay. Unionize, no big deal, because they actually understand the rights of workers. So this is what these companies could and should be doing. And again, this is a small company. This is not, Starbucks, Amazon making billions a year. This is Vodeo Games. Most people haven't even heard of them. But they allowed their workers to unionize because they actually believe in their right to have their own voice. So, it's incredible to see these sorts of efforts get more traction, be it Amazon, be it Starbucks, be it a small company like Vodeo Games. But I think we're just going to see more of this. And ultimately, this is where the center of power is. It is in organized labor. Because you don't really have, as the working class, there really is no pressure points on politicians unless the working class have their own organizations, unless they are organized, unless they have unions, to be able to put pressure on politicians to change things. So this is where a lot of this starts, and it's good to see a lot more workplaces are unionizing. Okay. There we go. A happy story. I know it's rare to see. But all right, two more stories left. The next one on a virus winning a Supreme Court case, and of course, man and COVID and his penis. So we'll get to that. Donald James has become a new member. Thank you, Donald, so much for becoming a member. And you can join too. Hit the join button below on YouTube, or you can join on Patreon. Let me bring that up again if I have it. Here we go. There you go. Links are also below the video on YouTube to support the show, and super chats as well. But I will be right back with the next story. All right. What up? Let's do this next story, and then the other one. I just realized I don't have a weekly wrap up this week, but it's all good. Whatever. Next week. All right. This Supreme Court story. COVID-19 has won its Supreme Court case against the Biden administration. That's right. A virus won its case. Now, obviously, I'm being a little, hyperbolic here, but that's ultimately what happened. So despite the fact that vaccine mandates are how we've gotten through pandemics in the past, the U.S. Supreme Court has struck down Biden's vaccine and testing requirements on large companies, which, by the way, is not really a vaccine mandate, but still, they shot it down. So just to be clear on the ruling here from SCOTUS blog, the Supreme Court blocks the federal government's COVID-19 vaccine or test requirement for large workplaces. The court allows a vaccine mandate for workers at federally funded healthcare facilities to take effect nationwide. So on one hand, you have a good ruling. On the other hand, a horrible ruling. Now, let me first get to some of the reaction here from the justices that voted against this. So liberal justices Stephen Breyer, Sonia Sotomayor, and Elena Kagan issued a blistering dissent saying, quote, "When we are wise, we know not to displace the judgments of experts acting within the sphere Congress marked out and under presidential control to deal with emergency conditions," they wrote. "Today, we are not wise. In the face of a still raging pandemic, this court tells the agency charged with protecting worker safety that it may not do so in all the workplaces needed. As disease and death continue to mount, this court tells the agency that it cannot respond in the most effective way possible. The rule would impact some 80 million individuals and requires employers with 100 or more employees to ensure that their employees are fully vaccinated or undergo regular testing and wear a face covering at work. There are exceptions for those with religious objections. The agency said that it had the authority to act under an emergency temporary standard meant to protect employees if they are exposed to a grave danger. How is COVID-19 not a grave danger? This clearly is, no. It's, the thing is, I have a hard time imagining that the workplaces that have implemented this are going to revert back and not do this, at the very least testing, because what you're going to end up doing, because most people are vaccinated, most people care about their health, most people don't want to get COVID-19. So if these workplaces then revert back and don't at the very least require testing and masks, you're going to scare off a lot of your employees. So even without this in place, I do think a lot of workplaces will still continue, but at the same time, there's no guarantee that they will. And this ultimately is the issue here, where you are putting workers at risk, even though it is OSHA's job to take care of workers. That is their job. You think in a pandemic is the time where they would shine the most, but they aren't even allowed to protect public health in the middle of a pandemic with just the bare minimum here. Again, this isn't a vaccine mandate. This is a vaccine or test requirement. Why can't you test people to see if they have the virus? It's ridiculous, but let me get some reactions here. So this from Leah Greenberg. Just a reminder, the Supreme Court made everyone involved in hearing the vaccine mandate case take a PCR test in advance, guaranteeing a level of protection that is widely out of reach for nearly every worker affected by this decision. Isn't that crazy? To actually go in and be heard at this hearing, they had to get tested for COVID-19, only to then have the Supreme Court say workplaces should not require it. Completely bizarre. From Internet Hippo here saying the coronavirus crying and hugging its lawyer. That just made me laugh. Kyle Klinsky here saying OSHA issues rules that provide medical criteria which will assure insofar as practicable that no employee will suffer diminished health or life expectancy as a result of his work. The Supreme Court thinks vaccine or test during a pandemic doesn't fall under this. Yeah, clearly it does. But again, this is the issue when you have an incredibly right-wing Supreme Court. You're going to have rulings like this that make absolutely no sense, but they'll do what they want to benefit massive corporations. Next one here, Ben Shapiro. Don't worry, I got you the conservative opinion here. I'm not going to be shy about the fact that we at Daily Wire stood up for our employees and everybody's employees. We are proud of that fact. We put time and money into challenging the vax mandate, which again is not really a mandate. And we couldn't have done that without your help. Well, this reaction here from Sam Cedar, quote, stood up for employees should read as defended the right of employers to force its workers back to work without even the protection of knowing that those around them tested negative for a deadly virus. Can you imagine working for Ben Shapiro or anybody with this kind of mindset? They just do not care at all. For Shapiro, it's about clicks, it's about views. There's, of course, a large conservative base that is anti-vaccine because they've been fed a bunch of bullshit. So he's simply feeding into that. But it's so disgusting. A ruling like this, just one of the really bare minimum steps to protecting people against a deadly virus, not allowed because apparently it restricts the employers. Of course, again, another ruling siding with employers over their actual workers. Okay. My throat was like bothering me halfway through that. This is the issue with shooting live. I can't I guess I could edit afterwards, but it would just be weird. But there we go. I'm better now. All right. Where was I? Tony D says, a Canada news host telling me how effed USA is. Thank you, David. That's what I do. But I also do with Canada. I covered Quebec this week. Have now claimed that they're going to tax the unvaccinated, which for some of you may sound like a great idea, but ultimately the issue is the lack of public health protections, and that is what has led to the spread of COVID-19. You know, every single person should be sent an N95 mask. This should have happened at the beginning of this pandemic. Mass produce N95s, send them to everybody. Try to get people, at least try to get them to wear them. Obviously, if they're in their possession, they're more likely to wear them. But that would help to really stop the spread of COVID-19. But didn't do that. So, yeah. But if you want more on that video or more on that topic, go watch that video. All right. Last story. This one I did not prep at all because I'm not even sure if I'm going to make it into an actual video. But let me bring up the article here because this is a little bizarre, but maybe real. So I'll do a little on-the-fly intro, and then essentially I'm just going to read through this article. So there's no real prep here, but it's not too long. Sorry, New York Post like popping up a video that I can't close. All right. I think this is in the UK. Oh, whatever. We'll find out. A man has claimed that COVID-19 shrunk his penis. That's right. And there may actually be some science to this. So I'm just going to go through this article here in the New York Post. If you look this up, many articles about this, but I'm just going to use New York Post here. So their headline, man claims his penis shrank 1.5 inches. COVID, can I say this word on YouTube? I don't know, but you know what that means. COVID penis is real, say docs. So let's read through this. So talk about getting the short end of the stick. Ha ha ha. New York Post, very funny. As if contracting COVID wasn't bad enough, a dismayed man now claims that he's lost a whopping 1.5 inches from the length of his penis as a lingering result of the vile virus. Quote, my penis has shrunk, lamented the griping guy in a letter to the How to Do It podcast this week. So let me just stop right there. It's a letter to a podcast. So just to understand how much you can or can't trust this, it's a letter to a podcast. But he says, quote, I'm a heterosexual man in my 30s, he said, anonymously again. How much can you trust this? But we'll get to the science. Only referring to himself as coming up short. In July of last year, I contracted COVID and was very sick. When I got out of the hospital, I had some erectile dysfunction issues, he added. The purportedly once well-endowed man went on to explain that prior to his diagnosis, he boasted an above-average sized tool. That's not him, but dramatization of what he may look like. But much to his chagrin, his formerly impressive privates have since lost their luster. Quote, the erectile dysfunction gradually got better with some medical attention, but I seem to be left with a lasting problem, he confessed. Before I got sick, my penis was above average. Not huge, but definitely bigger than normal. Now I've lost about 1.5 inches and become decidedly less than average. He claimed that a medical advisor had attributed his pecker problems to vascular damage caused by COVID and was warned that the impairment was likely permanent. There he is at the doctor office. Again, a dramatization. It's just funny how they insert these like stock images throughout this article. Quote, it shouldn't really matter, the man wrote, but it has had a profound impact on my self-confidence and my abilities in bed. I know that you can't give me back my missing length and girth. Whoa. Length and girth? We should have separate measurements then. So 1.5 inches and what in terms of girth? We don't know about the girth, but so it's missing length and girth. But I was wondering if you could give me any advice on what to do now. In response to the dude's desperate plea for penis help, Dr. Charles Welliver, a urologist and director of men's health at Albany Medical College, New York, confirmed the rare but real havoc COVID can wreak on a man's unmentionables. So apparently it's rare but real. Quote, you can connect the dots, the physician told Slate, of the virus correlation to ding-a-ling disorders. Whoever wrote this, the solid job. Again, another amazing stock image here. Whose idea Who thought up, you know what? I'm going to make a stock image where I have a banana and a tape measure, and I'm going to measure the banana, and somebody will buy it and use it, and the New York Post did. COVID causes a lot of mass respiratory symptoms that leads to a lot of deaths, he said, but there's also pretty significant vascular issues that occur with guys. The doctor went on to cite studies that have shown cases of men who've suffered from priapism, the persistent erection prompted sans sexual arousal, and erectile dysfunction after contracting COVID. Another stock image here. When guys get erectile dysfunction, they get a lack of erections for a while. And when that happens, they actually do get some shrinkage, he added. So, okay, yeah, obviously. And his commentary on miniaturized members was backed by Dr. Ashley Winter, a urologist in Oregon, who insisted COVID penis is a real thing. Who thought to mask a banana? Did they do this themselves? No, this is also a stock image. Wow. All right. Amazing. I don't know how you came up with that one, but you can find anything on Getty Images. All right. Quote, the main reason that we think this occurs is something that we call endothelial dysfunction, she explained. That's because the cells that line your blood vessels, and they're really important for the function of many different organs. Okay. That makes more sense now. The healthcare pro went on to note that when COVID infects those vital cells, it can take a toll on a number of organs. Quote, and because the erection is blood flow events, when those blood vessels are affected, you can get erectile dysfunction, she said. However, despite the prognosis coming up short received from his doom and gloom doctor, both urologists agreed that rehabilitative practices like doing penis push-ups or purchasing a penis vacuum could restore length over time. I thought this was just like a gimmick. This actually works. Unbelievable. A typical regimen would be starting something like Viagra or Cialis to improve blood flow, advised Winter. Another thing would be to buy a penis vacuum device and do penis exercise with it, or penis. Okay, I don't know. I don't know what penis push-ups are. I don't know what that means. Penis push-ups? She also suggested stretching the penis with the. This goes deeper than I didn't finish the whole article when I read this initially, so this goes a lot deeper than I realized. She also suggested stretching the penis with a traction device named Restore X, which he says has reportedly elongated, shortened wee-wees by 1 to 2 centimeters with consistent use. Sounds kind of painful. These are easy things that you can do at home to either prevent shortening or actually get back length that you've lost, she assured. So to make a long story short, just hang in there, guys. There's hope. Who wrote this? I just want to give them credit here because this is well written. Asia Grace, good job. Fantastic. So there you go. This is real. Your penis can shrink from COVID-19. This is also, by the way, a reminder why we can't get bogged down on certain very specific topics like myocarditis. So I covered it yesterday, the Rogan thing, where Rogan was fact-checked on his claim that myocarditis is more common from the vaccine than from getting COVID-19. The reality is there's a lot of data showing, well, the opposite, first of all, but there's some data showing what Rogan was saying, but there's more data showing that actually the vaccine increases your chances more of myocarditis. But even, that's why we can't get bogged down in like that little conversation about myocarditis, because everything else with COVID, be it death, be it long COVID, be it penis shrinkage. I mean, there are so many other impacts from having COVID-19 that you can't simply say, is it worth getting the vaccine? Yes, it's worth getting the vaccine. You have to listen to the body of science, the vast majority of scientists, what they are saying, and they're saying, get the vaccine. So get the vaccine. Now, this guy, maybe he was vaccinated and got COVID and has, penis shrinkage. Who knows? But if you have the vaccine, you are more likely to protect yourself from severe illness. And I would assume as well, severe cases of penis shrinkage, if that's something that you're worried about. Okay. Will this be a story later? Will I cut this out into a video? I don't know. But man, that was something. All right. Let's get to some chats, and then I will get out of here and ensure that I was going to make a joke, but never mind. I'm not going to bother. All right. Junie McGraw, a very loyal supporter of mine. Thank you, Junie. Says, I don't think the Supreme Court understands how infectious COVID is. I've been vaccinated and wearing my mask everywhere I go, but I got a positive result today. I have a mild case, but if I wasn't vaccinated, it may be worse. I hope you recover quickly. I'm sad to hear that. But yeah, absolutely. That's why I've now started wearing an N95 since Omicron came up. Actually, this is kind of funny. One of the gifts my dad gave me, he's like super safety guy. He gave me a few N95 masks. So I've now been wearing them and I'm glad I have. I've had to go, whether it's grocery shopping, wherever it is in public, I wear that N95. And I think that's what you should, if you can get N95s or KN95s, wear those in public when you're out. It will protect you a lot more from the virus than a regular mask will. And by the way, Bernie Sanders right now is trying to pass legislation that will send everyone an N95 mask. So yeah, wear N95s. Geese Studio says whoever took that pic of that banana and mask foretold the prophecy of COVID small pp. Absolutely. Let's just appreciate the masked banana again. This is really one of the great stock images of our time, I think. It's beautiful. I wonder how much this cost to use this stock photo. I should be a stock photo photographer. I could do this. I could take a picture of a banana with a mask on it. I could take a picture of a banana with a measuring tape. Incredible. Just incredible. All right. Verna Rochelle sends her $10 super chat with a number one fan. Well, you said it. I guess you are the number one fan. Unless someone else also sends a super chat with the same one, then you're both the number one fan. So at that point, I couldn't decide. But right now, you are the number one fan. Thank you, Verna, so much for your super chat. All right. Let me grab some rando chats, and then I move the chat to this monitor here. There we go. I'll grab some random chats and then be on my way. Michael Coran says there's no way you will not cut this out into a video. The only reason why I might not is because I literally just read an article. So I just read a full article. I don't think I've done that in a video, but whatever. I mean, I guess streamers do it. Why can't I do it? So maybe it will be a video. Vax tax is awful, says MK946. Yeah, I discussed the downsides to that in my video. Radzoso says that man's name is George Costanza. That is something that I think George Costanza would be worried about. That would make a great Seinfeld storyline. There's accounts out there that have the Seinfeld accounts that create storylines that could happen, in modern day. I think it's like modern day Seinfeld. There's like a few of them though. But absolutely, I could see that being a modern day Seinfeld story. A lot of random chats coming. Let me grab some. It's going too fast for me here. Alex Gomez says, my personal experience is that I was suffering from heart palpitations, but didn't think much of it. I got vaccinated on December 28th. Same day I took a blood pressure test. COVID caused it. Definitely not the jab. And by the way, it's okay to be honest. Like, we should be honest about, yes, getting the vaccine also leads to potential increase in myocarditis. But getting COVID leads to a higher increase than the vaccine. So, there's no reason to hide from, like, this is why anybody trying to claim there's some, cabal that's wanted to make me take the vaccine. It's so ridiculous. Like, if that was the case, then why would this this kind of data be coming out? Why would we see studies where, yes, getting it does increase your chance of myocarditis? Like, why would we be seeing that at all if that wasn't the case? It's because these scientists are being honest about the reality of COVID-19 and about these vaccines. So yes, it can increase your chance of myocarditis, but getting COVID makes it worse. Ryan Nowicki says, and by the way, if you're wondering why I keep coughing, not COVID, it's just the air is so dry in Canada. It is ridiculous. In the summer months, the air here is so incredibly dry, where my knuckles start cracking from bleeding, even though I moisturize. My throat's dry. So yeah. Ryan Nowicki says, number 0 fan here. Would you support a very generous bounty system to give cops incentive to turn in other cops? Like 6 or 7 figures. Have a good one. I'll have to sit with that and think about it, because I haven't thought about that before. It doesn't sound like a horrible idea, as long as the payouts were less than what these departments have to pay when it comes to legal fees, because often that's what ends up happening, is they pay a ton in legal fees to cover these cops. But I don't know. It doesn't sound like a bad idea. It sounds like one potential way to break up the the cult or the gang that exists within certain police departments. Tony D says, you are a good man. Well, thank you, Tony. That's very kind of you. All right, there's so many random chats that I'm just going to scroll up because I know I missed a bunch. See if I can grab some random ones up here. Donald James says, I want David to run for American office. Do it, Dave. Not happening. I'm not moving to the U.S. Sorry. Though, I gotta say, if I could move to Hawaii, I would think about it. I was lucky enough to go to Hawaii once. God damn, is Hawaii freaking beautiful. What an amazing place. I was on the Big Island, and it was... So, like, it wasn't even like the resort islands. It was the Big Island, but it was amazing. The weather there is perfect. The food, the people, everything about Hawaii is wonderful. Brian Holmes says, I'm getting the 3rd Moderna shot next week. I got my booster this week, and it was also Moderna. In fact, I have Pfizer, Moderna. So I'm not sure if in the US you're mixing vaccines, but in Canada we've been mixing them since the beginning almost. So I got a little mix. Annabelle says, I was out at Laguna Beach on Sunday. Already sounds fantastic. Says, and oh my God, the majority of people were unmasked. Thankfully, I was double masked. If you ever head out to Orange County, proceed with caution. Well, I mean, if you're outside and not near anybody and you're like vaxxed and boosted, I don't think you really have to worry about being masked outside. Unless you're, talking to someone face to face, then I understand. But I'm still caught on the beach part of that. I have not been on a beach in years. I would freaking love to be on a beach right now. It's so cold here. I will find a chat. Don't worry. Oh, another super chat. The Flowcat says, hi, thank you for all you do. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much. Madison says, the second Pfizer vax put me to sleep for 2 weeks. And then all I did was sleep. Yeah. My second vaccine, the Moderna one, I had like nausea for like a couple days, fatigue for sure, and then it went away. So, and then the booster, I just a sore arm really. Is that why the beverage is called Canada Dry? I just missed it. It scrolled down, so I just missed who said that. But that's funny. I'm not sure why. I'm not sure what the thinking behind the name of Canada Dry is, but that would make sense. Sarah says, do you think it's worth getting the booster? Yes, I do. And I'm saying that because I've just listened to health experts. I'm not, I'm not a scientist. I'm not. And by the way, even if I was a scientist or a doctor, I'm still one person. This is why we have to understand how science works, how this pandemic works, how these vaccines work. It's the body of evidence, the body of science, what the majority of scientists, of infectious disease specialists are saying. And they're saying, yes, get the booster. So that's why I am pro booster. And also, I think there's some studies coming out now showing that if you've been boosted, it protects you more against Omicron than if you're just double vaxxed. So, yeah. And by the way, I mean, every year, before COVID-19, there was a flu vax every year. So, like, this is not like out of the ordinary to get vaccinated again with another vax for the same thing. So it's not, it's not crazy to get a booster shot. Flowcat's a member. Thank you for joining. Breed says, David, the dry is in reference to it not being sweet, like a dry wine. I see. All right. All right. Time to go. I gotta go see my family. See how they're doing. And also eat dinner. I know it's early, but I had an early lunch or late breakfast. And now I'm hungry. Just mixed my coffee with Rockstar. I'm all hyped up now. Donald James, that sounds crazy. I don't think I would ever do that. But enjoy your day. All hyped up. Before I go, I got to talk about video games. Because why wouldn't I? Man, I am right now in the middle of playing Tales of Arise. Solid. I have just recently gotten into Japanese RPGs. When I was a kid, for some reason, I didn't. I mean, a lot of them were turn-based, so I wasn't super I wasn't into turn-based RPGs. Though I am now, after beating Persona 5. But Tales of Arise is more action RPG, and it is great. I'm really enjoying it, enjoying the story. I'm about like 30 hours in, and it's the only downside to games like this is that they're way too long. Like, I want to, play the next game. I like having experiences, and then, they end. 20 hours is kind of good. Even shorter than that is good with me. But so that's the only downside for me when it comes to RPGs. Like, yeah, Dragon Quest 11, Persona 5 was over 100 hours. It took me like over a year to beat it because I don't have that much time to game. Dragon Quest 11, I think it's the same, right? It's like 100 hours. I don't know if I could stay that committed. Like, I just, at some point, I want to play something else. That said, I am enjoying the story in Tales enough where I want to keep going. Flowcat says JRPGs are great. Tales of series is so good. The first one that I was, aware of was Tales of Symphonia on the GameCube. I know my brother played that. I think I tried it, but I never really got into it. Chrono Trigger, I do want to get into because I hear it's like 20 hours. So I can play that. But the only place I can find Chrono Trigger now is on an iPhone. I don't really want to play games, or at least RPGs, on my iPhone. So I'm hoping for, like, I don't know, a release on Switch would be nice, or on PlayStation, but I don't know. But yeah, my list is too long when it comes to the RPGs I want to play, and just games in general. I also want to get into the Outer Worlds. Do you hear my stomach? My stomach just loudly growled. There's a lot. Shin Megami Tensei, I want to play that as well, but I also hear that's like 100 hours. All right. There's too much. It's too much happening. But I did stream on Twitch after a 6-month hiatus over the weekend. So maybe if I have some time this weekend, which I may, let me check my calendar here. I may have some time this weekend, so I may be on Twitch again. So if you follow me on there, or you should follow me on there, I think link is still below the video on YouTube to the Twitch page. But yeah, follow me, and if I'm there, I'm there. Annabelle, I also wonder when Breath of the Wild 2 is coming out. For sure. Hopefully this year, but we will see. All right. Facebook banned Pac-Man. Is that legit? Why would they? That sounds bizarre to me. I have no idea what's behind this, but I'm going to say it's likely because he played someone else's video of something, because Pac-Man is fairly inoffensive. I can't imagine Facebook just banning his content. But I don't know. Facebook is weird, as is YouTube, as is Twitch. All these platforms have their issues. All right. Got to go. Thank you all for showing up, and see you next week. Goodbye.